Is the president broke?
No, the president is a comfortably wealthy man, and he will probably be a comfortably wealthy man for the rest of his life. But I do think he's in an asset squeeze potentially. He has urban, commercial, and residential real estate that's come under fire because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And he's got lenders turning their backs on him because of the insurrection on January 6th. And as always, he is extremely levered. He's someone who is gorged on debt his entire life, and he's got a lot of debt against his properties. None of it, I think, is life-threatening in terms of his finances, but it could, he could see a lot of his net worth significantly clipped.
Well said. Tim O'Brien, if the president is prosperous but facing, like anyone else in real estate, the challenges of the moment and the natural disaster of the pandemic, do you presume that he will go to, I guess I'd say, foreign sources if the local banks won't pony up?
Well, I think that's the danger. And obviously, you saw over the weekend, Joe Biden said that they're not going to give Trump access to intelligence briefings. I think a president who is hard up for cash is a president who's a national security threat. And I think the intelligence community and obviously the executive branch isn't comfortable with the idea of him trading intelligence favors for funds. But that was an issue even before January 6th. It's been throughout his presidency. The president never really fully insulated himself from his own financial interests. And there's been a lot of speculation that you may see the Saudis or the Qataris come in with money to Jared Kushner that ultimately gets to the president, but we'll have to see. There's going to be a lot of geopolitical pressure put on any country, I think, that plays ball with Trump like that. The Biden administration is going to be watching that.
Tim, when you look at the proceedings, of course, in the impeachment, does it make a difference to the American people in terms of the narrative they hear, if they're witnesses or not?
Well, I do think it matters, Francine. I think, there's been this debate among both, there's a number of prominent Republicans who think that impeachment should be a very quick proceeding and we should move beyond it for two reasons. One, it's a very seismic event and people are worried about a lack of unity. I frankly think that's a garbage reason, but it's out there. A practical reason is that the proceeding itself slows down Biden's ability to legislate and form his administration. There's some reality to that, but I don't think it's a complete block. And we are in a historical moment. I think, we know a lot about what President Trump did on January 6th and prior to that, but we don't know everything. And there's this looming question about what did he know around whether or not the January 6th siege was coordinated, and when did he know it? And I think a trial for the historical record and for citizens and voters to know exactly what happened, the trial is a very important airing in that, and maybe the only time we get that around Trump himself.
Tim, would it change the minds of people that actually up until this point think that President Trump had done no wrong?
I never know the answers to those questions, Francine. I think there's certainly, 30 million of the 74 million Republicans who voted for him, I think, are hardcore Trump supporters, and there's very little that's going to change their mind. I think for, say, the other 44 million, I think there's a portion of them who should know what the story is. We never really know how people are going to react to what stories are until the stories are told. I also think there's just a legal and historical reason for getting this information out there.
Tim O'Brien, you have an essay in Bloomberg Opinion from Robert George with his experience at the Daily News and the New York Post as well, clearly a conservative voice as well. When you talk to Robert George or others of the conservative bent, who owns the high ground now in the GOP, or is it too early to tell?
Well, I think, traditionally we identify classic conservatism as fiscal austerity, a hawkish foreign policy, and a respect for institutions and the rule of law. And I think there are people like Mitt Romney who fit that description pretty well. I think despite some of his parliamentary maneuverings, that's where Mitch McConnell is. But there's also obviously this tension. There's a strong populist wing of the Republican Party right now that is anti-institutional and is aligning itself with interests that traditionally hadn't been Republican. And I think you're going to see a lot of that headbutting now.